Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Amen. 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 Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Amen. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family and their children and their children and their children. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family and your children and their children and their children. May his favor be upon you and 1,000
it's Jess and Evan Yamada. We are so glad that you are joining us this Sunday morning. If you are looking to stay in the loop with all the things that are continuing to happen here at Makers Church, you can text Makers to 97000. Now it's officially summertime, which means it's hot. And so families, if you're looking for just some fun things to do with the kids, spend some quality time together, we've pulled together a really fun calendar for the month of July. It's called 31 Days of Summer. So you can go to the website and you can follow us each day as we've pulled together some really fun activities that you can do as a family.
Then in August, specifically the 2nd, mark your calendars. Made to Make Poetry Workshop Volume 2 is on. Hosted again by Gil Sotu, and it's back. So mark your calendars for August 2nd.
Awesome. Yeah, and we also just want to say thank you to those of you who have continued to give and just be so generous during this time. There are many ways to give. You can go online to find out more information. So if you're looking to give more or just start giving to Makers Church, it's easy to do. And again, you can go online for more information.
All right, Makers fam, have a great Sunday.
Love you. Peace.
Everyone needs a passion,
Welcome to Makers Church Online. I'm so glad that you're with us. If we've never had a chance to meet, my name's Derrick, and I serve here as the lead pastor. And I hope that today that you are finding yourself amidst some community somewhere in one way or another. What I mean by that is, I think one of the things that we've been missing the most during COVID is community and conversation. And so over the summer, we're providing that in two different spaces. We're doing virtual communities online via Facebook watch parties. And I hope that you are part of one or that you're hosting one. You've invited your friends and your family to watch together and then to have a conversation. And then we also have watch parties that are happening all over the city in different public spaces, outdoors, with social distancing in place. And if you're at one of those right now, I hope that it's an amazing time together, that it's great to see each other, and that you have a great conversation after the message today. Today we're going to continue our Kingdom Come series. It's a series on radical Christian ethics in a post-Christian world. And today I want to talk about a reality of the kingdom that I like to call opposites attract. I think one of the most compelling things about Christians is that when we're getting it right, when we're living in the way of Jesus, that we would be the type of people where opposites attract. Now, it doesn't take me telling you that today we're living in a world and in a country full of conflict and controversy, of division and divisiveness on all sorts of issues, whether it's race relations or COVID or the political election coming up and everything in between. We're living in a very polarized world. Now, I love polarized sunglasses. It's a great quality to have in shades, but it's a terrible quality to have in a church, in a home, in a city, in a nation. And I wonder what it would be like if we could become people where opposites attract. It's true that there's two sides to every coin. In fact, I have a quarter right here. And there are two sides to this coin. But what's in between those two sides is 1.5 millimeters of space. And I think it takes us realizing for a moment that while there are two sides to every coin or to every issue or to every debate, that the gap between those two sometimes is tiny and marginal. We act as if there's this vast chasm between them and us, or this thing and that thing. But the reality is there's just this small space between us, just slivers apart. But there's been so much pain and agony and confusion over these differing viewpoints, these different parties or camps or conversations, different value systems. And if you pay any attention to social media, you know that it's just flat out overwhelming. Everyone trying to plead their case and make their point and be the loudest. And it's all just turning into a shouting match. In fact, it's been a shouting match for far too long. I work as a firefighter, and one of the greatest joys of my job is I get to interact with the public every day in all sorts of different ways and all sorts of different walks of life. And there's this phenomenon that happens in the fire department all the time, where we roll into a call and we start going down our line of questioning, whether it's a medical call or a fire, and we're trying to get information. And all of a sudden, it can become very quickly to realize that the people we're talking to don't speak English. And if they speak Spanish, we're okay. We can all kind of make it through Spanish. But if it's really anything else, we kind of look around at each other and we realize quickly that there is a language barrier. And I don't know why we continually do it, but over and over and over, our immediate response is to just talk louder and slower in English, as if that's going to get our point across. Why do we do that? It's very clear that there's a language barrier, there's a language gap for whatever reason. We just talk louder and slower to try to be heard. And it doesn't work. It never works. And we do this when we're in relationships with people who we can't get through to. who we don't feel like we see things the same way. Instead of realizing that there's a value gap or a language gap, we just start shouting at each other, and we talk louder and louder and louder, and it never helps get the point across. Now, I've seen some trends taking place in our circles of friends and in our society and our nation that are really concerning to me. Trends where we're taking one aspect of someone, one belief on one issue, and we're using that to label or judge or make our minds up about each other. We don't even have to go so as far to hear it at face value. We can watch what people like or who they're friends with on social media or what they share or support or what the things that they support, and boom, all of a sudden we make our minds up completely about each other. And we spend all this time trying to create allies, trying to win people over and lock arms on certain issues and know who's with us. And all of a sudden, once we've built our nice little camps where we all agree on one thing, in a moment's notice, we can realize that there's some other thing that all of us in this camp don't agree on. And all of a sudden, our allies and our locked arms togetherness just begins to fall apart. Did it ever occur to you that we're complex, that we're layered, that we're misguided, yet mostly well-intended? We're jeopardizing our humanity by creating these camps and these cliques. I was thinking the other day of polarity. And it's interesting that in politics, red and blue clash and repel each other. But in physics, opposites attract each other. We have these little blocks laying around our house, and really cool story behind these blocks. These blocks are called Tegu toys, and a really good friend of ours, Chris Hoey, years ago, decided to do something with his life that would make a difference. He's super smart, super brilliant entrepreneur, and he'd had his life changed by being on some mission trips in Honduras. And he fell in love with the Honduran people, and he began to ask questions around how he can use his privilege and use his resources to help change a nation. And so he moved his family and his company to Honduras, and he designed these wooden blocks. And he thought, what could I do that would be helpful in all aspects of society? And so he created a business where he made these blocks, and these blocks are actually magnetic. They stick together. They're like a wooden version of a Lego. And they're really cool, and he didn't know if it would work. But he thought, how could I give back? And so he moved his company down to Honduras, and he started this factory where they build these wood blocks with sustainable wood. And every time you buy one of these sets of blocks, that you can put kids in school from a trash dump community that myself and several friends have been down to many of times to serve at. And his whole plan for the business was to work himself out of a job, that every layer of that company would be replaced with a local Honduran. And I just saw on social media in the last week or two that Chris and his family have moved back to the States, and they've completely handed the business over. And it's just such a cool story. And every time I see these blocks laying around my house that all three of my kids have played with, I think about this dynamic, about this reality that in physics, opposites attract. And what's so compelling about magnets is they have a positive side and a negative side. And you would think if magnets were like us, the positive sides would join together and the negative sides would join together because like would attract like. But that's not the case with magnets. Magnets instead have a positive side and a negative side. And if you try to flip it around and put these positive sides together, they repel each other. They actually don't work. But if you flip it around and you go positive to negative, they become connected. They become almost inseparable. It takes a lot of force to pull these magnets apart. It's not always true that opposites attract. We see it. We know it's happening right now in our culture, in our society, that we clump together. Birds of feather flock together. And I understand that happens, but it's not true that opposites attract all the time, but when it does, it is so compelling. It's so fascinating. We love it when this happens. Think about it. We love when things that come together that shouldn't be together happen. We love the pictures of a big pit bull and a little kitten cuddling together. We love the stories where opposites attract. We love the story of Romeo and Juliet, forbidden to be in love, forbidden to be together. And that story is so moving and it's so compelling to us. We see it in relationships all the time, too. It's breathtakingly beautiful when things forbidden to be together come together. My wife and I are the perfect example of opposites attracting. There's so many relationships out there where introverts and extroverts come together, where morning people and night people come together, impulsive people and planners, steady Eddie and adventure adrenaline junkies, attention grabbers and security seekers. There's no denying that when these types of people come together, it's so compelling and beautiful. And this can create some interesting challenges, for sure. But these differences are actually the source of what many consider to be the very source and the most important aspect of any successful relationship, which we call chemistry. Chemistry refers to the undefinable quality that is the basis of the attraction that fuels the impulse to be drawn to one another. What if this could be true in our current cultural climate, where opposites don't repel each other, but actually become attracted to each other? What if we could learn to love those different than us, to seek understanding with those who do not believe like us, to stop demonizing and dehumanizing those that think and believe or even act differently than we do, because that is what Jesus did. And that is what he's calling us to. In Matthew 5:43, he says, "You have heard that it was said, 'Love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be the children of the Father in heaven." See, Jesus didn't surround himself with people who were like him, who believed like him or thought like him. In fact, he did exactly the opposite. He wasn't only open to them. This is what I find the most fascinating. It isn't just that Jesus was open to them. It's that they were open to him. Why in the world would a sinner or a tax collector or a Samaritan or women or prostitutes or lepers, the list goes on and on and on. Why would all of these folks not only be folks that Jesus was attracted to, but they were open to him? Jesus had every right to berate and to question, to rebuke, to criticize them, but instead, he befriended them. Is that even possible for us? What if we started a movement where opposites attract, where we ended the finger pointing and we started hand holding? I mean, not really. COVID would never allow for that. But I mean, what would it look like if we if we stopped pointing the fingers and began being locked arms with people who were different than us? Now, I know many of you are enraged no matter where you stand on any issue. We're polarized and categorized, but my hope is that we can become more like magnets and less like critics. In fact, right now, I want you to think about one person. Think about one person by name. Or it could be a thing or even a value system that you despise the most. Think about that. You got it? Now imagine, instead of being repelled by them, imagine becoming attracted. Or even better yet, imagine being attractive to them. Well, what if you could change your tune and could actually get through to them? I believe there are 3 easy ways to do this. Easy in concept, hard in practice. Step 1, become curious. Contrary to some common assumptions, Jesus is not the ultimate answer man. but he's more like the great question asker. In the Gospels, Jesus asks more questions than he does give answers. To be precise, Jesus asks 307 questions, and he is asked 183, of which he only answers 3. There's something profoundly life-altering when we move from being contentious and become curious. Oftentimes, our fear of uncertainty comes not only from our arrogance, but also from our ignorance. Because of the very fact that we aren't curious and we don't seek to understand, we stay put in our ignorance. And if you feel like you're far from being ignorant, like you're well informed, and like you know all of the sides to all of the issues, well, you're well versed and you're educated on all the contours and nuances of certain issues. Well, if you feel like you aren't ignorant and you're still operating this way, then you might just be arrogant. Because you can never know what compels someone to align a certain way until you ask them, until you step into their life and listen. It's amazing how we can have our minds made up before we're even willing to meet up. Now, I know meeting up is challenging in COVID, but we're smart people. We can figure out how to do this, whether it's FaceTime or a phone call or a Zoom or a socially distant hang. We can meet up and we can see each other and we can listen to each other and we can seek to understand, to hear each other out. The process is simple. Whoever scares you or infuriates you, go make friends with them. Or even better yet, stay friends with them. The atheist, the Muslim, the person in the LGBTQIA community, the person on the other side of the aisle than you. Well, what begins to happen when you move close and you stay friends or make friends with these people is you begin to realize so quickly how beautiful and how broken they are, just like you and me. Be curious. Seek to understand. But one of the things that I love the most that is happening in this community is this very thing. Not all the time and not with everyone, but more and more I see you folks being challenged to embrace this idea. And I am so proud of those of you who are doing that. Keep it going. Vet your narrative. Don't be convinced, but stay curious. Step 2, be compelling. What I mean by that is be attractive, not reactive. Luke 15:1 says this, "Now the tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to him. And the Pharisees and the scribes grumbled, saying, 'This man receives sinners and eats with them.'" I love how they were the ones drawing near to Jesus instead of Jesus having to go out and draw near to them. He was so compelling that people wanted to be among him. They wanted to be with him. It's easy to look at Jesus and find him fascinating because of who he hung out with. The perfect, sinless Son of God, sitting and eating and dining and walking and journeying with tax collectors and prostitutes and people that he shouldn't have been with. It's easy to look and say, that's so amazing that he would take the time to be with them. But what's even more compelling than that is that they would take the time to be with him. There's no chance that it was easy to be around Jesus. I can imagine that being among Jesus was convicting and challenging. Yet they still chose to be in his midst. Let our differences attract people. Let our differences be the force that initiates conversations. There's a gravitational pull towards Jesus. What if we as Jesus followers could be the same? If we would have a gravitational pull towards us because of how open we are and how much we want to help others get better. Jesus changed the status quo of his own camp, by the way. Jesus was a Jew, and he challenged everybody in his own camp, and he brought conviction to those outside of his camp. He was compelling enough to bring change. He didn't go and fight to be heard, but he did earn the right to speak. He didn't go out and fight to be heard, but he did earn the right to speak. And he did it because he was loving, and he was gentle, he was kind, and he was curious. And I think we spend so much of our time fighting to be heard instead of earning the right to speak. And I think that subtle shift could change everything. So many of our responses are acts of passion. It's great to be passionate, but when we act on our passion without pause, it can be more destructive than it does good. We see two ways, right or left, black or white. But there's a third way, and it's called love. And this is the third step. Be committed to love. Love isn't the way you feel about someone who agrees with you or who disagrees with you. It's the choice to love those who are different. We're misguided when we feel like love is this compelling force that chooses us. No, instead, love is a compelling force that we choose to demonstrate towards others. Listen to what the scriptures say here in Luke 6. I want to end with this. But to you who are willing to listen, I say, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who hurt you. If someone slaps you on one cheek, offer the other cheek also. If one demands your coat, offer your shirt also. Give to anyone who asks, and when things are taken away from you, don't try to get them back. Do to others as you would like them to do to you. If you love only those who love you, why should you get credit for that? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good only to those who do good to you, why should you get credit? Even sinners do that much. And if you lend money only to those who can repay you, why should you get credit? Even sinners will lend to sinners for a full return. Love your enemies. Do good to them. Lend to them without expecting to be repaid. Then your reward from heaven will be very great, and you will be truly acting as the children of the Most High. For he is kind to those who are unthankful and wicked. You must be compassionate, just as your Father is compassionate. May we become the people who are known by our love for each other, even in our differences. May we become the people who are known for our love for others, even if there's nothing in it for us. I wholeheartedly long for and believe that we can continue to become a community where opposites attract. And we can do this by being curious, by being compelling, and by being committed to love. May you endeavor in this purpose with us. Let's pray. God, we are so grateful for the life that you lived, Jesus, for the way you modeled a life that was so compelling, God, not only that you were drawn to those who shouldn't be among you, but they were drawn to you. And God, you broke down walls of division, and you moved into proximity with people who should have been your enemy. And so, God, that's my prayer for us. And that's my prayer, Lord, for anybody who's watching today that feels disconnected from you, that they would sense the proximity that you have to them, and that today they would choose a relationship with you so that we can begin to live out this kind of life that is only made possible when you are at the center of it. We invite you, Jesus, to lead us in this endeavor. In your name we pray. Amen. Hey, if you're watching today and the idea of following Jesus is new to you, and you would like to make a decision to follow Jesus with your life, we'd love for you to pick up your phone and text "new follower" to 97000. What will happen after that is one of us will call you and we'll begin a relationship and a conversation as we journey with you towards Jesus. So we thank you so much for watching today. If you're here and you're in a community, whether Facebook watch party or around the neighborhood in an outdoor space, this is the question I want you to share with each other. Earlier on in the message, I asked you to think about someone or some value system or something that you would see as an enemy. And I want you to, in full vulnerability and confession, name that in this group together. Name that person or that thing or that ideology that you see as other. And begin to start sharing with each other the next steps you believe God is calling you into as you make them a friend or keep them as a friend. Be well and God blessed.
You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Yes, I am a child of God. From my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Love has called my name. I've been born again into your family. Your blood flows through my veins. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Yes, I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Yes, I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. Child of God, sing it again. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears are drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child of I'm no longer a slave to fear. Yes, I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Yes, I am a child of God. Oh, yes, I am a child of God.
Hi Makers fam, happy Sunday. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Taylor and I have the privilege of serving on the Connections team here at Makers. I really do miss serving y'all coffee and welcoming you to church in person on a Sunday morning. But until then, I welcome you from my living room, now home office, and I really just can't wait until we can be back together in person. Until then, continue to stay well, stay healthy, and truly support one another. Love y'all.
Hello and good morning, Makers family. Raheem here. I miss you all dearly, but as a part of the prayer team, I pray for your health and well-being each and every Friday. And I just want to say, be safe and wear your mask when you leave your houses. I love and miss you. Have a blessed Sunday.
Wilma and Mina here. Just wanted to say hello and let you know that we miss you all. Bless you. Bye.